Here we go. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday, June 1st regular meeting of the Sachem Board of Education. If everyone could please rise for the pledge and then remain standing for a moment of silence. This past weekend, we lost a member of our Sachem family. The current chief custodian here at Samoset Middle School passed away suddenly, Mr. Don Hine. If everyone can please join me for a moment of silence for Mr. Hine. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to turn the meeting over to Dr. Pelletieri for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to jump right in with what has become quickly my favorite part of these board meetings, and that is talking with staff and students about some of the exemplary things that our youngsters are doing here in the district. So first person I'm going to ask to come up is Dr. Almendares Del Bello, who is the principal of Tamarack School. She's going to be speaking about one of her students, Vishruth. Dr. B, are you here? Oh, there you are. Very good.
Green
button. Got it. Well,
Don't be nervous.
I'm
Don't be nervous.
I'm good. So good evening, members of the board and members of our community. Yes, as Dr. Pelletieri mentioned, I'm here to talk about Vishruth Kati. He is a remarkable young man who excels in all academic areas.
Hold on. Where's Vishruth? Come on up here, buddy.
You should stand and face the world. So Vishruth has demonstrated leadership qualities, is an exceptional role model for his peers, and always demonstrates a desire to help others. His teacher, Mrs. Sanchez, says, in class, Vishruth always seeks academic challenges. He is often eager to expand his learning and practice higher level work. The harder the assignment is, the more motivated Vishruth becomes. This is a trait that will lead to wonderful future success in his educational journey. On Thursday, May 12, 2022, some of our fifth grade students had the opportunity to participate in the Suffolk County Math Tournament. These students, led by our math teacher, Mr. Kuvek, were selected from our math enrichment group and competed with schools across Suffolk County. Vishruth Kati placed first in Suffolk County with the only perfect score in the tournament. And if that wasn't enough, the following day, Vishruth represented Tamarack in the district-wide fifth grade spelling bee. In a challenging competition, he once again achieved first place. This recognition tonight is truly a tribute to his perseverance and positive outlook towards learning and education. At this time, if you don't mind, I would like to ask Mr. Kuvek to come up here and help me present Vishruth with a medal and award.
Vishruth, come sit down by that microphone. You're not done yet. I've been waiting for this for like 2 weeks since I saw you win the spelling bee. 3 weeks. Your word is Pelletieri. You want me to use it in a sentence?
Yeah.
Dr. Pelletieri is the superintendent of Sachem Schools.
Pelletieri.
Don't worry, I never know how to do it either.
Pelletieri. P-E-L-L.
All right. I will take it off. I will take you off the hook there. P-E-L-L-E-T. Well, you didn't finish, so I'm giving it to you. Correct. Good job. I was trying to think of a word that could stump you, and I realized probably my name would be the best word because you were unstumpable in math and in spelling, which is kind of two different sides of the brain, maybe. Some people might say maybe it's the same side. I don't know, but really very impressive. I wanted to ask you, do you think it's the glasses that make you smarter, or why do you have all of this ability?
Mainly because of my mom, because she always pushes me to do harder, and she's pushed me just to work hard and achieve my goals.
That's fantastic. And just long term, real quick, what are your plans? What are your future plans? You're going to be president. You're going to run a company. What are you going to do?
In the future, I would like to become a doctor, a pediatrician, and I'd like to take care of kids and give schedule doctor appointments for them.
Yeah. You could build them that way when they come, right? So we will help you. This district, this Sachem family is going to help you achieve that goal. Okay, that's how much faith I have in you that you're going to accomplish that.
Okay.
So we're going to bring you up and we're going to take a picture with everyone. All right.
Guys, move down this way just a little bit.
Squeeze in there.
I'll step back. You step
Perfect. All right, guys, right here. 1, 2, 3. One more. Awesome.
All right, Mom, you want to come in? Come in and take a picture.
Perfect. Do you guys want to just take a step? Perfect. Awesome. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
I'm recording.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Big plans for you.
Just not at that level yet. Yeah.
Next, we have Mr. McGrath, who will be speaking about Ethan Francelot. Mr. McGrath?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Greg McGrath. I am the science research teacher at Sachem North High School. It is my privilege to introduce Ethan Francelot this evening to the Board of Education. Ethan is a wonderful student that I've had the honor of teaching in the science research program since his freshman year. It has been a pleasure to watch him develop into a fine young adult these last 3 years. During this time, Ethan has demonstrated dedication, a solid work ethic, an inquisitive nature, and responsibility. Equally as important is that Ethan is a good and kind person and a pleasure to have in my class. Ethan has many interests and talents, including active participation as president of the Dungeons and Dragons and Trivia Club, secretary of the Science Olympiad Club, secretary of the Chess Club, as well as member of the JV tennis team and marching band. It is his achievement in science research, however, which deserves acknowledgement this evening. As you may know, science research students often seek a research mentor in order to gain additional experience conducting original science research at a professional lab. That being said, Ethan applied to and was accepted into the 2022 Simons Summer Research Program at Stony Brook University, a program which seeks academically gifted high school applicants from all across the country. This fellowship program matches applicants with research mentors in a variety of scientific disciplines. In Ethan's instance, he will be working with an immunologist conducting original science research on the immunopathology of the COVID-19 virus. Needless to say, Ethan's accomplishment is significant, for which I am very proud of him. Congratulations. You want to grill him too?
Yeah, I'm going to grill him. Ethan, how are you so well-rounded? Tennis, science, all of these things, you know, you're a great kid. What do we attribute this to?
My mom also.
Good answer. You're pretty smart on your feet too, because that was the right answer, right? Is your mom here?
Yeah.
Where's mom? Hey, mom. Ethan, what are your future plans?
Probably go major in biomedical sciences and work to be a biomedical engineer, or go the pre-med track and become a doctor, probably.
Congratulations. We have great faith in you as well. Mr. McGrath, before you go, you may want to speak to our youngster here, Vishruth already, right? Make sure you touch base with him. Science research. So we're gonna present. Thank you very much.
Do you guys mind if I have one of you guys on the other side just to even it out? Sure. Appreciate it. Awesome. Ready, guys? 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Mom?
Mom, come up closer.
Ready, guys? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Thanks.
I'm going to ask Riley Hetman to come up also, and Miss Zumo, who's Riley's teacher. So this will be interesting because we're going to have a student speak about a teacher before the teacher speaks about a student. So Riley, take it away.
Ready? Okay. Good evening, Dr. Pelletieri and Board of Education. Thank you for inviting me here tonight. I nominated Ms. Sumo because she always puts others before herself and makes such a positive impact at Sachem North. She prides herself on making connections with her students, whether it's through her assignments or a conversation. She constantly reminds us that the high school years are so significant to our future, and having that positive influence really made a difference this school year. Ms. Zumo continues to inspire the students and staff at North by demonstrating such positive and selfless acts each and every day. I am so happy to have been a part of this contest, and I hope to see more awesome educators like her here at Sachem. Yeah.
So
I'll show you.
Riley, give us just a little more specific background. You nominated Ms. Sumo for?
The Teachers Federal Credit Union Teacher Appreciation Week contest.
Yes. And she got a whole lot of votes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks to your nomination. This would not have happened had you not nominated your teacher. I know you just read like a prepared statement, but what moved you to do this?
I think like it's been like coming back from like a lot of like challenging school year. I think like having like such a positive influence in a classroom, like, you know, always keeping it learning, like obviously like learning, but like we're having fun while learning at the same time. So I think it is really, really important.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. What grade are you in now, Riley?
10th.
You're in 10th grade? Wow, you're so mature already. What do you attribute this to, Riley?
Mom.
Yeah. Really? Is your dad back there standing up? Is that your dad, Riley, standing up?
Oh, mom and dad.
Oh, Dad's sitting down now. I don't think he's happy. I apologize. I might have set you up for that. I didn't mean to. That's my fault, sir. Okay, and Ms. Zumo, how are we doing?
We're good. Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Riley. I'm a little better at writing it, so I have a little something I wanted to mention. After 21 years in the classroom, I've learned that while the content you're teaching is important, the context in which you teach it is most important. Riley mentioned connections, the connections between teacher and students, between students and their classmates, and the connections between students and the content is what makes learning most impactful. For nearly the past 2 years, students have had to navigate a learning environment that required separation, isolation, and lack of connectedness. From half-occupancy classes to desk shields and masks, what has been missing in the classroom has been meaningful interactions and for students to learn just how important those connections are in life. I've spent an awesome year connecting with the students in my classroom, sharing that their classmates may be their future neighbors, coworkers, bosses, or even in-laws. You just never know. We've gotten to know each other well and shared about ourselves, all while learning Spanish, making the leap into language learning a more comfortable one. The majority of the year, they did this with masks on, which made connecting even more challenging, yet they still trusted me on this journey and opened themselves to getting to know one another. My friend Riley here is one of the students that has been along for the ride. She has been a wonderful, hardworking student all year and has engaged in the class wholeheartedly. Little did I know just how much taking time to connect meant to her and her classmates. I was blown away and honored when Riley nominated me for the Teacher Appreciation Contest, and even more so when she shared her letter. It made me realize all of our conversations and all the time spent connecting was making a difference in repairing some of the isolation over the past 2 years. In Riley's words, in our classroom, everyone is everyone's friend, which is truly important in tough times like this. Riley has amazed me with her sense of humor, her initiative, her drive and motivation, and her kind heart. The world needs more Riley Hetmans, truly. She took the time to get involved in an opportunity that would better her classroom and school environment. I am so proud of her efforts and depth of character. Thank you, Riley, for making a difference in our classroom, the school, and the community. You have certainly made an impact on me. And Riley just told me I kept it together because she knows I get a little.
You did a good job without a doubt. So when I interview teachers, I see we have a lot of teachers and staff here tonight. They're going to get recognized for tenure. The last question I always ask, I mention an age-old axiom in education, which is our kids will learn more from who you are than what you know. And I truly believe that. And so I see the person you are, and I see that rubbing off on our students. And that, to me, is just incredible. And I want to thank you for that. Thank you. Riley, thank you. We're going to take a picture.
Ready, guys? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thank you.
So this is the last group we're going to recognize this evening, but certainly they are not the least. I'm going to ask Ms. Ferran to come up, who will be speaking about some of her art students. Ms. Ferran?
Hello, thank you for having us. Come on and stand up here. Tonight, the art department is proud to recognize 4 of our high school art students from both Sachem High Schools North and East for their outstanding achievements this year. We begin by recognizing one of the winners of the PTA Reflections Contest. Each year, the National Reflections Contest is hosted by the National PTA. Over 300,000 students nationwide in pre-K through grade 12 create original artworks in response to a student-selected theme. This year's theme was, I Will Change the World By. Sachem North ninth grader, Jazara Angelique Reyes, was chosen as the Suffolk County Regional PTA Reflections Contest winner. Congratulations. Both of our high schools recently participated in the annual Bay Area Friends of the Fine Arts Juried Invitational Show in Sayville, also known as the BAFA Show, which is held at the Gillette House in Sayville each year. This year, 109 students from 11 schools participated. 7 of our Sachem High School students received ribbons in various categories at the show. 3 of them are here with us tonight. 11th grader Dylan Berkowitz, Dylan received 3rd place ribbon in mixed media. And Madison Grasso is here. She received 3rd place ribbon in watercolor painting. And Alexander Palakos received 3rd place in computer graphics.
Thanks, congrats.
I'm going to kind of change or switch gears here and talk about something that's a lot more somber. I mean, we just think about how great those kids were and our teachers and the future that they represent. Really amazing. And again, what this family, the Sachem family coming together does for this community and for our future. But my next conversation is about school security, and which is why my more somber tone, obviously. Last week I was up at North High School watching their a cappella group perform, and one of their youngsters in the a young man in a jazz band who wrote his own piece. I mean, just incredible things were happening as I sat there. I started feeling my phone in my pocket start to vibrate and blow up, as they say. And I started getting all the information from colleagues and associates and news outlets about what had happened in Texas. And you're sitting in a school auditorium looking at like the best of what we can do. And you just, your heart is just being torn out at the same time. It's impossible to try and deal with. And at the same time, you have to. I remember leaving that, thanking the students and talking with them and the staff and walking back to my office and composing a letter to this community about what had just taken place. And so a little bit about me, safety and security, and I think you've heard this probably from me many times. Health, safety, security are our primary goals. The most important thing we can do for this family is to provide a safe and secure home and school for them. And so we take that, I take that, this board takes that, this community takes that very, very seriously. I did write a letter last Friday to the community outlining some of the safety measures we have in the district in terms of our vestibules, the glazing or film that's on glass in those vestibules, our visitor management system, our annual security trainings. People have asked me about drills of late. We have 8 evacuation drills and 4 lockout or lockdown drills. These are recorded. I'm not going to get into too many specifics about too much of the security that we have. We have school security systems. We have plans in place. I sent you links to websites and things like that. We have our camera systems in place. We have our trained guards, as I stated before. We have our cameras in place, and we're constantly reviewing and updating our procedures and what it is that we do. One of the things I want to say to the board tonight, and this was actually raised by a board member earlier this year, I've gotten a lot of emails, the board has, a lot of people have ideas, and one of the things I want to do is have some experts come in and look at all of our systems, the entirety of our systems, to interview students, parents, staff, board members, community members, and really take a close look at our security system. So there's something called a TVRA, Threat Vulnerability Risk Assessment. We did this last in 2018. A lot of the procedures we have in place, a lot of things that we do now are from that assessment. I'm going to recommend to the board that we go ahead and do another, now in 2022-23 school year, another threat vulnerability risk assessment. They will look at this district top to bottom. People are worried about fences. I've been getting emails about sizes of fences and length of fences and gates, and people worried about monitors or lack thereof, or school buses. We had a concern around school buses. I know that we did a lot of training in response to that, but what more can we do about safeguarding our school buses and obviously those on the school buses? It is a top to bottom review. And so I know some folks may come tonight to talk about security or come to the microphone or make suggestions or email the board or continue to call me and things and as such as that. But I'm going to recommend, and I know we will share with the board this assessment. The cost of this is about $30,000, right, Mr. O'Keefe? And I'm going to recommend that we immediately move forward with this group to come in and look at everything in terms of security top to bottom. Instead of us trying to figure out what might be best or conjecture or guess or read about another district here or there or anything, let's have the experts come in and weigh in on exactly what we need to do. And they will also look back at our 2018 assessment and say, hey, you guys did this and this, but you never did this, and you should do this or that. I think it would really be worthwhile for investment for our district, for our community, and again, as I always say, our Sachem family. So one last piece that I'll add to that. We do work closely with the Suffolk County Police Department. They have visited our schools of late. They've walked the halls with some of our principals, I know, and I did meet with them and speak with them several times since then. We're going to continue to have ongoing meetings and discussions. And one of the things that I was glad to find out is that we already have an MOA in place which allows them to hook right into our camera systems. If, in fact, they needed to do that on a moment's notice, they have access to our buildings as well. This is all something that was done prior. So there are a lot of safeguards in this district. I know we have newer parents. It was always turnover on the board, so there might not have been people that were aware of a lot of these safeguards, but we do have a great many. I just feel that we should, again, take part in this vulnerability assessment and look at the recommendations and move forward there. I know also, Ms. Trebetta, you ran a meeting today, a school safety meeting. I'm going to ask you later when we get to that portion of the agenda to discuss that. So I don't know if any questions or comments from the board.
Please. Rob?
Chris, in order to enter into that agreement for that risk assessment, is that a resolution that we have to put on and approve, or is it something that we're just going to go ahead with?
Certainly, if the board chooses to move forward, you would just be letting the superintendent know that that was your intention. This particular vendor is on multiple state and local contracts, so it doesn't require any competitive bidding. I've already secured a proposal, which we have forwarded to the board for your review. So if the board is in favor of whether it's this evening or in the coming days, I would be something I think we would start off the school year with, let the school year, the first week or two start, and then you bring it in. And last time they were here for several months. They do this very discreetly. The staff is not told that they're coming. It's, people trying to penetrate the building, trying to access things, observing. They did drone footage over buildings, observed how vehicles came onto property. There were numerous recommendations made. It's how we have our security vestibules now. It's how we have our Raptor system now. And a lot of the protocols that obviously we won't discuss publicly, but the trainings that came out of it were the result of this. So it'd be a good idea to revisit what he saw then, see what improvements we've made, and other suggestions, like Dr. Pelletieri said, that may come of a new set of eyes on it again.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Please, Sarah. Yep, Stephanie, you're next.
Implement all their suggestions and recommendations?
Can you say that again, Sarah?
Did we implement all their suggestions and recommendations?
Probably not all of them. I mean, certain things would require other alterations at buildings. There are certain things that are still being considered, like one of the items that the voters voted on this year was the reconfiguration of the parking lot at Sagamore, because that building does have such troubled vehicle access. So that was one of the items from that initial investigation. Nothing stands out that, wasn't something meaningful, but obviously there are always suggestions, that you have to weigh yourself and determine what's the best way to handle it.
Stephanie, please.
We weren't connected to Wi-Fi the last time it's on.
Okay, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Okay, no, we weren't connected to Wi-Fi when it was conducted the last time, right? So they would
Right,
look that
Wi-Fi.
over and give us
That was
input on
just
what we
the
did.
well, the Wi-Fi wouldn't be something they necessarily test for security reasons, but that was at the start of our smart schools work. So we did not have Wi-Fi when this was conducted last time.
Does that impact anything? I'm guessing a lot of security, like with scanning in the.
Nope, everything's hardwired for that.
IDs. Oh, that's
Yeah,
hardwired?
everything security related would be hardwired.
Okay.
Any other questions? Please.
Just in the immediate, are there things that are being done and looked at in the immediate times that we're putting in place, and trainings and just kind of administrators walking the hallways, kind of seeing what needs to be improved and watched and things like that?
Without a doubt. And the community has been, again, very forthcoming. They've seen things, they've said things. I got an email today about doors that they were worried about perhaps not closing, as we sent everyone around that particular building, custodial, to make sure that every door locked was self-closing, as it should be. So we've certainly been this partnership back and forth, and yes, training and working with the police department, the wearing of our vests at pickup and drop off and things like that. We have been doing those things, and I visited a field day the other day. We had ID, had folks present ID, things like that. Like, we're really being need to be cognizant of everything that's going on, and did read recently that what had happened down in Texas, the person got through a door that had been propped open. And so no matter what system you have and how much you spend on, it's only as strong as that element where someone might do something like that. So we always have to constantly be cognizant of that. And I talk with our administrators and staff about that all the time.
Anyone else? Just going to go around the room to make sure everyone's good with the threat assessment. Sabrina, Mike, Matthew, Rob, Sarah, Stephanie, and I am also. Good.
Thank you so much. One thing I'll just point out, and I probably failed to do this, maybe I should, we have our new board member who was elected and sitting with us tonight, Ms. Volpe. Ms. Volpe, welcome. And then we have our other board members who were elected will be joining us on July 1. It was an interesting way this played out this year in terms of the dates and how it had to move forward. That's it for my report, right? Was there anything else? That's it for my report. Oh,
The no harm policy?
yes. I knew there was, yeah.
He's like an elephant. He's good.
I knew there was one other thing. We had last year in Sachem schools and in many districts a no harm policy when it came to the regents in terms of kids taking the state assessment, the state regents. Last year they were optional, so the no harm policy applied to final grades, grades on final examinations, and applied to the regents. Whichever was the higher score would be averaged in, and we would make sure we do no harm. I know, Ms. Hines, we've had this conversation again for a while now in terms of that policy this year. Have you been able to have those conversations with folks, and where are we with this?
I'm sorry, I have my glasses with me. I had to reach around. Yes, we continue to have the same policy. Last year, I know we had a pretty vigorous conversation around this. And because of the regents not necessarily counting, we felt definitely comfortable with a no harm policy. I'm happy to say that we've had these conversations throughout the entire year with our chairs, our administrators, our teachers. And as you know, the new memo that came out this year did actually say that the state does not recommend utilizing the regents at all within final grades. However, we continue to work through our policy this year of 5%, but a memo will go out to our community. It will be 5% again if it works in the favor of the student. So tomorrow, actually, we are meeting with both our middle school and our high school chairs, administrators that are attending, myself, Ms. O'Doherty, Ms. Moran. We will go through the new memo. There's also an appeal process as well for any students who score anywhere between 50 and 64 to appeal as well, much like our special education. I continue to be very proud of Sachem in terms of our leadership around this. Both myself, Ms. Moran, and Ms. O'Doherty, again, we are leaders in our curriculum council at BOCES, and we've shared this with our intention from Sachem for such time. So I'm sorry if there was any miscommunication, but it still continues to be our policy this year, and we will continue to look through this next year and on as well.
I'm going to offer just one more caveat to that. At last year, I believe students did not have the regent's grade on the transcript. They may have just
Only
said,
if a parent or a student, parent, family representative asked to. Ms. Graham, who's our director of guidance, she worked with our guidance leads to ensure that occurred for us, and we will again do that.
So I thought this year it has to be on because
It does
it's
have to be
required.
on, but a parent, if you don't want to have the actual grade on, and forgive me, I'm forgetting what it is, but you can. It's not the actual grade. It's
CR or something, or
yeah,
credit.
something along those lines. Yes. So that communication will go out tomorrow afternoon. You and I just have to look at the memo one last time, but we are moving forward with the same.
Thank you. And I spoke with several of my counterparts who are doing the same in terms of limiting that weight. Some districts all the way up to 20% are bringing it down to 5 or 0. And as Ms. Hines stated, state ed has started to push harder on that it shouldn't be part of it at all.
Yeah, I mean, that's been for some time, but definitely this year was the first year that we saw that they put it in writing, that they just did not recommend it. And I think with all the conversation around the regents, what that will look like in the future is something that I know, again, proud that our board has been talking about for some time in terms of, advocating around that.
Any questions?
Chris, last year it was 5% of the regents or the final exam.
Yeah.
Every program is given final exam?
Not every program, no. So this year will be 5% of whichever one is that final. So for example, in algebra, the final is the algebra exam. So it would be 5% of that. There'd be no choice.
Right. Last year we had finals, just in case a child did not take it or opted not to take it. This year we're not going to have that as it's unnecessary testing, and we've always had that. We don't want to test unnecessarily.
Who else, please, Matthew?
Did we ever get any specific response to that letter that we sent about not having the regents waived?
I'll tell you what, Mr. Baumann.
Please.
We didn't get specific feedback on that, but you'll recall this board and I discussed, debated, however you want to couch it, whether or not we should be doing field tests in the district. The state doesn't seem to want to work with us on fixing the assessments that we feel might be broken. Now's the time to do it. We all agreed to that. But the state has moved forward with the old assessments, for lack of a better word. I had said at that time we should be doing the field tests because it's the state's attempt to make the test better, make the assessment system better. And so, thank you. I thought I was in trouble there for a second. Sabrina was about to. Okay, so I had discussed how we have to take part in the field test system. Many on the board, I think certainly a majority, but many said they're not working with us. We shouldn't necessarily be working with them. we had done some of the field testing, so we did finish that field testing we had completed, but they had sent us some computer-based tests. They wanted us to do tests up through June. And at that point, I said, all right, we got so much on our plates, AP exams, end of the year, kids studying for reading, things like that. Let's pack up. I asked Ms. Hines to pack up the last of the field tests and send them back. She wrote a very nice letter saying that we weren't going to be able to participate. We had some that were completed, but we weren't going to be able to do anymore. That we did get a response to. We got a letter back from the Office of State Assessment saying, we're going to send you those tests back, and we want you to partake in those field tests. So I did call. I didn't get a response. I will certainly try again because I want to have that dialogue. That was the purpose of the letter, to have this dialogue. So, Ms. Hines, did we ever get anything back? Do you know?
No, we did not.
And
We just
Marie,
have a
you
lot
don't
of
know
tests
anything?
coming back, apparently.
Say again?
I said we just have a lot of tests coming back, apparently.
What kind of tests?
Our field tests.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know though if like we have, like they would do like early June. It's now early June. So I don't know if we'd even be within that window
would
yet.
not be.
But I certainly welcome that dialogue with them. But so long story short, I apologize for that, but we didn't get a response to the letter, but we did get a response to our sending the field tests back. And again, we will continue to try and have that dialogue and work with the state. All right?
I guess I don't really have a choice. Can we respond back and tell them to go to hell?
Oh,
Wow, look at you. Good for you.
Well, Dr. Pilatari opted to call back. And I think that was a pretty wise choice. The letter that I sent, he basically just wrote, too bad, I'm sending them back.
Chris, the state assessments are mandatory, but is there anything in the books or the law, state law, that says that pilot exams are mandatory? Aren't they voluntary?
I don't think they're voluntary necessarily. I think there's a certain sense that you have to cooperate with state in some of these exams. I don't know if there's any penalty that can be imposed if you were to say, we're notwithstanding your request, we're declining to participate. I'm not sure if there's any penalty that can be imposed.
Does every school get these field tests, or is it school selected, certain school selected
It
randomly?
from my understanding,
It's
it
a
is
rotation?
Yep. But and what'll happen is we'll always, because of our size, we'll always have something somewhere, whether it's 8th grade ELA or 3rd grade math, or we'll always have something somewhere. It's better than it used to be, where you'd have a huge swaths of kids having to take it. And they also only want students that are participating that did the actual assessments, that didn't opt out, in other words. And so that leaves us with a small number of kids already also.
Look, not to rehash the conversation, but a lot of federal money was given to Sachem and many other school districts to close the learning loss. Okay, and every minute counts in order for that to happen. And to say, well, we want you to close the learning loss, but we want you to take 2 days to test the kids, is just irresponsible. And I would say that we continue to fight this fight as long as we can.
Yeah,
I agree.
Stephanie,
I
I think you're gonna-
100% agree with that. And it also impacts students with IEPs and puts them in a great disadvantage. So I 100% agree with the fight. Thank you.
I will continue the discussion, Mr. Bauman, as I will couch it, sir, respectfully. Thank you.
Good. Everyone's good? We're going to flip over to page 2 on the top. Letter F is approval of minutes for the May 4th and May 17th public hearing and regular business meeting and the annual district meeting. Can I please have a motion? Motion by Mrs. Wadawa, seconded by Mr. Isernia. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Yep, we'll give everybody a minute to go.
Good night. Thank you. Thanks, Riley's dad. See you, partner.
Number 2 is visitors. These 3 cards are going to go towards the end of the meeting. There's a second section. Number 3 is business items, consent agenda A through E. Can I please have a motion? Motion by Mr. Bauman, seconded by Mrs. Pikowitz. Any questions, please?
And John's question is really geared towards, this is the tax anticipation notes. Do we know with the inflation and the increase in loan amounts, loan percentages, are we anticipating a higher percentage for what we're going to be borrowing this year and what that number might be?
I wouldn't anticipate necessarily there'd be an additional amount of money we need to borrow. The resolution is written as a maximum of borrowing up to 100 million. last several years, we've only been borrowing at about the $50 million level.
Yeah, I'm not talking
But
about
the
the amount.
interest
Yeah.
rates, I would assume, would certainly rise over what we've seen in recent years. Yes, I mean, this past year was the lowest interest rate I think I've ever seen in my career. I don't think it's going to go through the roof this year, but it's certainly going to be several decimal points higher than what we paid last.
Yeah. And on $50 million, let's say if we borrow it, it's significant. It could be
Right. I mean,
reasonable increase.
whereas this past year we paid just a few $100,000 in interest. If we go back 4 or 5 years ago, where interest rates are a little higher, on that same borrowing, we paid $1.6 million in interest for the year. So just a couple of decimal points shifts it dramatically.
And understand that this is all because the state budget and if educational budget doesn't match up.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
the tax anticipation notes are the money that we need from September to January 1st.
Yeah, it's the way schools are funded is rather odd. Obviously, our school year starts in July. The voters approved our budget back in May. So we start on July 1st with no incoming revenue. So we have two main revenue sources. We have the taxpayers provide about 60% of our revenue through the tax levy. And the state provides their portion of state aid, which is about 40% of our revenue. Tax levy obviously does not start coming in until January 1st of the following calendar year. And state aid, while some payments are made in the fall of a school year, those payments are actually automatically intercepted and applied to payments like our teachers' retirement system. So the district doesn't actually see those monies. So until sometime in December, January, we actually don't receive any revenue, but we've already operated half the school year. So this borrowing is the cash flow that we need to meet our obligations during that period of time. And it's just a cyclical thing year after year, unfortunately, where districts are put in a position of having to borrow, spend taxpayer dollars on interest because of the way we're funded.
Any other questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. If you could flip over to page 5, action items. Letter A is the adoption of the 2022-2023 Board of Education meeting dates. Can I please have a motion? Motion by Mr. Baumann, seconded by Mr. Scavo. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Letter B is the mandated New York State Board Trustee training for Ms. Stephanie Volpe. Can I please have a motion? Motion by Mr. Isernia, second by Ms. Pikowitz. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And letter C is the approval of the May 31st, 2022 non-working day, which is already passed. Can I please have a motion? Motion by Mr. Isernia, seconded by Mr. Baumann. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Over to page 7 is personnel teachers consent agenda A through U. Can I please have a motion? Motion by Mr. Scavo, second by Mr. Baumann. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Mrs. Capeliden.
On this evening's agenda, we'd like to recognize Mrs. Tracy Brennan, who did retire as a teacher assistant here in from High School North. She has in excess of 20 years working with special education students, and she also had some of her own children come through the halls of North and be incredibly successful. So we'd like to congratulate her on her retirement. This evening, we also have some incredible educators who have really who have spent the last number of years with us as new hires or in new positions. We have 35 teachers who are joined by family, friends, administrators, chair people, as well as 10 teachers' assistants who are also here with their families. This has been an incredible time for us as a district. It's been a big learning curve for all of us. We've all been working together in this learning curve to make sure that every student has everything that they need, and we want to congratulate you on a job well done, and congratulations on your tenure. Last but certainly not least in this section, we have 12 new probationary teaching staff that are joining in our audience today from all sorts of areas as we talk about the 9-period day expansion in instruction and replacing our retirees. We'd like to thank you for making sure that you wanted to be a part of the Sachem family and congratulate you on being a part of our journey as we go into 22-23. If we could just ask those folks who are probationers, if you could please stand so our board and community can see our new family members. And if possible, if we can also have a photograph with our board for our folks up for tenure after. Dr.
Yes, I was
Pelletier.
just going to, I apologize. I want to just jump in there for 1 second and just that tenure, right? It's almost like it's such a commitment. My old boss used to refer to it as a marriage between the district and the employees, but I'm going to just, maybe it's an engagement or something like that. I don't know. But the commitment that you have made to us, the most valuable thing we have nowadays that I can see really is our time. And the fact that you take your time away from your family to share it with the Sachem family. Maybe you've heard me say this before, but just really moves me to think about the people in this room, the time that they've dedicated to our students, the time that they put in to this family on top of the time with their own family is just remarkable. And I want to commend all the teachers, the administrators that work with them. I see lots of moms and dads. Probably a lot of your moms are responsible for your success, right? But I see moms and dads and husbands and wives and little babies and things like that. And again, all part of the Sachem family. I want to thank you all for being here tonight. It's really important. Yeah, and I'd love to have all the tenured folks come up right here, fill in the well. We're going to take a picture.
Mainly teachers. And we'll do the administrators separately.
There you go. All right, guys. Right here, 1, 2, 3. And I'll move to the families together.
Congrats, congrats. Congrats. Woo! How exciting. 2 places, Susan.
I would just, yeah.
Okay.
Over to page 21 is number 6, personnel support staff, consent agenda A through J. No, we might take our cell phones off also. 21, page 21.
Thanks, Marie.
Consent agenda A through J. Can I please have a motion? Motion by Mr. Scavo, seconded by Mr. Isernia. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Mrs. Capeland, please.
Just a short recognition. We had some of our support staff members retire this evening. The board accepted their retirement for many, many years of great service here in the district between custodial, office assistant, senior office assistant, and school nurse. So we'd like to congratulate these folks on their retirement.
If we flip over to page 25, towards the middle is number 7, personnel administrators, consent agenda A through C. Can I please have a motion? Motion by Mr. Baumann, seconded by Mrs. Pikowitz. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Please.
Joining us this evening, we have 4 administrators with various family members. We'd like to recognize them and ask for them to stand. We're putting you on the hot spot, but for good reason, for all the great work that you've done so far. Time flies when you're having fun. We hope you've been having an incredible time with us as we've gone along the last number of years. We have Elizabeth or Beth Caruana, Assistant Director for Special Education. We have Kevin Tuffer, Waverly Elementary School Principal. And we have our Director of Instructional Support and Assessment for STEM, Miss Danielle Moran. As well as our Director of Instructional Support and Assessment for Humanities, Miss Marie O'Doherty. Congratulations, and thank you for all of your hard work and rolling up your sleeves.
Do you mind if I just piggyback on that for 1 second? Thank you. I just wanted to call special attention tonight because as administrators, we do spend many long hours here in our departments and our schools, making sure all runs for our students in our communities day in and day out. And oftentimes this even occurs over the weekends. I'd like to congratulate tonight Mrs. Caruana. She's a tremendous asset to our special education department. Congratulations, Beth. And Mr. Tuffer, our wonderful principal at Waverly, who along with his wife Maria also just had their first child, Theo. Congratulations. Our administrators are tremendous, and I'm so proud to work with all of them. But with that said, I'd be remiss if I have not been looking forward to this night for a very long time for Miss O'Doherty and Miss Moran, who have sat in this position professionally and formally for the past couple of years, but they have sat in this position for well over 11 to 12 years. To say that they are the backbone of our office is an underestimate. I think I said that wrong. I'm tired. Sorry. You understand what I'm saying. Sorry about that, guys. I don't mean to ruin your night. Curriculum instruction in any district is why we're all here, right? It's all for the kids, everything that we do. In Sachem, our days are all consuming and never ending to secure the best for our students of Sachem. These 2 great professionals know no work hour limits. They are dedicated professionals who are always working to think out of the box. They never balk at what we need to do to take on more, and they both work tirelessly, and I mean tirelessly, throughout COVID with me every day and every night. They are my right and left hands, maybe to their exasperation, as I could be a little much sometimes. But I am honored and proud to call them not only my colleagues, but my friends. Congratulations to the both of you. I thank you and your families for sharing you with us and our Sachem family. Our kids benefit because of you both. All of our administrators, well deserved tonight, and kudos and congratulations.
Perfect. Ready, guys? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. More. Great.
Family want to come up for a picture?
Come on, guys. Dennis, Dan, come on. Maria. Maria, come over here. Sometimes.
Congratulations, Kim.
I'm there with you, Alex.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're just going to take a 2-minute break, let folks clear out. Everyone else, everyone is obviously welcome to stay. We're going to continue the next portion in 2 minutes. Just a 2-minute break. Thank you.
Like she did the, I don't know what those are called. The two with the one with that stick, not the yo-yo. It was 2 sticks with another stick. Right. That's fun. She's practicing it every day. She's decent.
Jake, you put in the juggler, you got 2 days. It's not hard. You're coordinating.
I'm not.
You know what? Challenge me to teach you how to juggle.
I don't have that like eye coordination and the depth perception, but like thinking that the ball's gonna come here and I'll go like I just
believe in
can't.
yourself, sir.
I believe in myself, but it just I can hit the scarves. I can do. Because you have some.
Oddly enough, I've never juggled scarves.
Really?
Never.
I remember doing that in phys ed. I remember juggling scarves.
I remember trying to do beanbag trick. Beanbag. I know, I'm cussing. I'm playing the drums. I'm just aggravated.
He was like, "Instructors in here." Funny.
The words in the Bible.
I think you're sensitive. I'm not.
I'm aggravated.
Well, the thing is, they don't want to have dialogue about the tests, but they know how to send the field test back without. They know how to have dialogue with that, but they can't have dialogue about.
And guess what? Every test
And the
packet
regions,
has,
some of the regions was like 30%.
and every test packet has Pearson on the back of it. The money maker.
Where should they go again?
You go straight to hell. It's a money making scheme. My kids not trying, so it's frustrating.
Well, I just gave my like end of year diagnostic. My kids did made phenomenal. I mean, they're not necessarily all grade level, but I would say 95% of the kids hit their regular target, if not their stretch target. But they'll go take that state assessment and get a 1. You know what I'm saying? So how does it? What are we measuring? You know, these kids are making mistakes. They're supposed to can't expect miracles.
My kids struggle against everything. This year, we're torn apart and everything else. It's not fair.
My last chapters, I just have to kind of pull out what I think is important.
Yeah.
Annie, thank you very much. Have a good night.
We're
Everyone
gonna
get to
rate your
meet
photos versus Sean, just so you know.
Yes.
We're gonna take a
The new Sean. Thank you.
We are on the page 26. Towards the top is number 8, contracts, consent agenda A through double J. Can I please have a motion by Mr. Scavo, seconded by Mr. Icernia?
She's great.
Any questions while you flip? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. We'll flip all the way over to 36. Donations, consent agenda A through B. There is a donation amount from the Hiawatha PTA in the amount of $2,096.93, and the Cayuga Elementary PTA in the amount of $2,970.81. Can I please have a motion? Motion by Mrs. Volpe, second by Mrs. Wadua. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you very much to both of those PTAs. Number 10 on the top is the Committee on Special Education, consent agenda A through B. Can I please have a motion? Motion by Mr. Baumann, seconded by Mr. Icernia. Any questions?
I have to abstain. I was a parent member on the committee.
Okay. All in favor? This is number 10.
I'm not 100% sure which committee.
It's okay.
I have at home, but I know I was.
So we have one abstention. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? And then there's the abstention. Any monthly reports? Please.
Just on the district-wide, I don't know, Pat, if you want to go into the discussion in the meeting we had tonight on safety and security?
Sure. Tonight, we had our safety meeting, district-wide safety meeting, and we had Joel Vetta present to us on the RAVE app, and we'll be meeting with him next week to actually go into some of our schools to talk about the cell phone, basically the Wi-Fi and the issues with having our cell phone to test it out. And then we're looking to possibly have a test drill done as well by the end of the year. And the RAVE app is basically an app that you have on your phone that teachers can sign up for, staff can sign up for, and it's a direct link to fire, police. There's an active shooter one. And what we learned tonight that he did a drill with us, walked us through it. You were actually able to, if you were the caller from your cell phone, to activate your camera so they could see you in the classroom and they can see what you were seeing at that point. They could locate you. They can tell immediately where a 911 call comes from. He explained to us some of the concerns that people have had in the past, that they don't want their children activating the phone if they're the app if they're playing with their phone, a young child. And he showed us that it was a 3-way way of doing it. You have to unlock your phone, then you have to unlock the app, and then you have to hold it down as well. In addition to that, he talked about the Geo Fencing, where it would only be active for us if we were in the Sachem area. But you would be known, if you were signed up for this, you would be known as a participant. So if you ever called 911 from home, this is what Mr. O'Keefe had asked, you'd come up as a yellow call, letting us know that you have the RAVE app and it's something that you're active in, you've signed up for. So we're interested in learning more about it. We want to make sure, because some of our buildings do have issues with cell phone usage and having access, we're going to go to those areas in certain buildings to make sure it does work there. And then also trying out having our teachers sign up for it. And Mr. Renda is looking into that with a Google Sheet to see how we roll it out first. But it was very interesting to see how much they can provide for us as an additional aspect of safety that we're looking into right now.
Patty, is it, who gets the app? It's just staff?
Staff would have this, yes. So staff would sign up, and we talked about how to do that. We talked about maybe doing it through professional development for the staff, because after watching it tonight and learning all the aspects of it, I think it's definitely more than just, oh, it's an app that you can use, and trigger when you want it. There's a lot more to it, and providing that training to the staff and showing them the actual benefits. I think everyone on the committee tonight was blown away by how much it can do and help us, and how quickly You know, he walked it. He was in his house when he basically did a test drill, and it showed the camera came on right from his phone, and we could see him immediately, and it located exactly where he was, like it shows right immediately, and that is active to the fire as well as the police.
So it's not an app for parents or students or
No.
in our schools. It would be for staff.
It would be
members.
for our staff, and we can do it through different groupings, by building. We have a lot more control, and we have a lot more control over what type of app, basically buttons we'd want on ours to be.
And is there a cost associated?
We didn't go through the costing with him. He was willing to do. He's a community member of ours, and he's willing to put as much time in as possible for it.
Thank you.
But John,
Yeah, there shouldn't be any cost. The county received a $2 million grant, which provides this service, I believe, in perpetuity.
I guess the advantage of this would be that it would be immediate attention. Did they say that the response time is even faster by using this app than calling 911 and getting an operator? So-
If I am in a position where I cannot get to a phone, and most people often have their cell phone on them in the pocket or something like that. If I'm with kids in a safe place somewhere in a building, I can't go reach out to a phone and have this ability, I think is really powerful.
And the thing is-
another aspect they had where you can communicate through this app. Like you can send something out to your staff saying police are on their way or stay in a lockdown. Like, so there's updates that you can provide, and we can provide them as staff, or they could do it for us as well, depending on how we'd want to work it out with them.
The great thing too is there's a demo mode. So there's
Yes.
a drill mode where you can actually, do drills with lock-ins or lockdowns, and run through the whole process.
And one of our building principals is very interested in doing that. Even if we can't do it with kids, get it up and running this quickly, they would like to do it with the staff before the year ends so that people could see how it works and we can see it in action.
Alex, yeah, this we've had this for years at Three Village, and seems to be a pretty good system. You have it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so. We were locked in as a PTA once, for real, in elementary school. And we had no training or any access to what to do. So in that situation, would like PTAs or volunteers or anybody who's visiting the building on the regular be provided access or modified access? Because we were in a lockdown with someone with a gun running around the neighborhood, and we had 2 volunteer kids with us and a bunch of parents who had no idea what to do. We used common sense, but we would have had no way of contacting anybody.
As far as our own trainings, we can look into something like that, like a parent university or something. But as far as the app, I don't know. That's a question we'll go back with Patty, whether they do something like that.
Would you consider a volunteer who's there a lot similar to staff? Because some of the stuff that the PTA does is not staff worthy, but it's like the amount of time we're in the buildings, it's a lot.
Yeah,
Especially if there's an event going on for the day.
We have coaches, for example, that aren't paid staff, but they're appointed by the board. So,
Volunteers that are regular.
yep, we would.
Way to give them some kind of status so that they could be part of the trainings, or at least have a point person to connect with in an emergency.
Yep.
Security guards would be in the building as well, and they would be, they would have access.
That's how we were locked in, and it was,
Yeah,
it
that-
was scary, but also
Right.
eye-opening.
Yeah, that is a safety measure to lock in because they don't want anyone getting in.
Right.
And so we would work with, and we can work with security in terms of making sure that there's contact and information being shared and things like that. I just don't know if it's through the Rave app that we would do that.
The concern you would have with that, Stephanie, is that somebody could trigger an alarm inadvertently, and you could have mass amounts of police showing up to the site.
Right.
So there would have to be some protocols as to who who has access to it.
100%.
But
It just made me think, 'cause
Yeah.
we were in the building a lot, and the fact that that doesn't happen more often is actually
Yeah.
shocking.
Yeah.
But it happened once to us, and there was a few of us in there with 2 kids.
Yeah.
And the kids were helping and had permission to help, but,
Yeah.
we stayed away from the windows. We did what we thought we were supposed to do, but we didn't have much training.
The other discussion, and I think it's a great detail, but there was some good discussion about, in that particular safety meeting, about putting portable iPads in the hands of our security guards to be, to have more eyes on some of the building cameras, so that, that when they're walking around the building, they would have access to multiple cameras within the building, as well as possibly at the vestibules themselves, putting a monitor there. So the more eyes on our entrances and the more eyes on our cameras, more likely we are to catch something. So some good discussion tonight.
I think excellent discussion, and also part of what our risk analysis will share with us in terms of their interviews with folks.
Mike, please.
Maybe Alex or Matt, you know the answer to this question, right? I'm just a little confused. So the people who have the app, will probably multiple staff members in a single building. How does it I could see a situation where multiple staff members at the same exact time initiate that app. How does it prioritize to know how does the responder know where they really should be at? If you follow my drift.
Yes. My understanding is that it would show basically a location in the building, and then the communication piece to that, where that you can type in comments. I think it was staff assistance. Is that what it was called? That one button where you can communicate more, and also by being able to turn on your camera if it was closer to you, something like that. But it would be anyone can sign up within the building. It would be identified per building, but then you'd come up as a user. So I don't know if they could identify that exact spot if more than one person did it, but it would certainly be, be able to, if it was a wing in a building, it wouldn't be both, too far away if it was something happening.
So the idea is, Mike, there's, unfortunately, we don't have Wi-Fi in here, so we can bring up the app, but, it's on all of the app stores, whether it's, Apple or Samsung, whatever the case is, but there's some really good screenshots of what the app looks like. Really what it is it's a panic button, a panic app. So if there's an active shooting, you're going to push and hold that active shooting button for a period of time. And the most important thing is it's going to alert the authorities that there's a serious situation going on. Even if 10 people do it, it's still going to alert the authorities that they need to get there immediately. And it might be something as simple as, medical assistance. It could be something as, as fire. So the thing is that it's going to directly contact those departments, municipalities, to get there immediately.
Yeah.
Whether one person pushes it or 10 people.
It wouldn't be much different than if 20 staff members all dialed 911 from their cell phone at the same time.
Okay, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah, I mean, the bigger benefit of the app is it works off texting technology, which even when you don't have cell service, a text will almost always go through.
Well, that was that's the analogy I was looking for. So it's not actually saying this is the exact location.
No.
Okay, but it's letting you know in this location something's
Yeah,
happening.
when you sign up, every one of our properties is geocoded. So they'll know that you are on a geocoded property. They'll know you that it's HM East, in the building when you pressed the help button.
There's some material that I can give to Dr. Pelletieri that he can share with you in the Friday packet, so you could take a closer look at some of the screenshots and the information they have on it.
If you want to take a look at it too, it's actually called Rave Panic Button. You can actually take a look at it and read up on it. So it's pretty interesting stuff.
Patty, thank you very much.
Anyone else? Number 12 is closing, is the second part of our public comment. Each person will be given 3 minutes. Board Trustee-elect Meredith Volpe.
Sorry, don't start my 3 minutes yet. I have to find it. I came here tonight to address what's on everyone's mind, which is safety. First, I'd like to start by offering my thoughts and prayers to all the families affected by this tragedy in Texas and all others before this one. We all have to stop for a minute and understand that our children are murdering one another. I know that's harsh to hear, and trust me, it was harsh to say. But it's the stark truth. Never before in history, even though we had the Great Depression, world wars, civil unrest, never before in history have children murdered children like this. In these times, and yes, it started over 20 years ago with Columbine, and it's progressively gotten worse. And in my opinion, some of that is because we're glorifying it. There's been movies made about Columbine and so on. And right now, our children have a device in their hand that can make a movie in seconds and get them social media famous within minutes. And so a huge part of this is mental health and showing children how to be more responsible with a cell phone, with the internet, with social media, and how to be kinder to one another. It's also up to us as parents to raise a gentler society of children. We also need to speak about safety in our schools. As a parent, I want to know everything. I want to know what we're doing all the time, and is it enough? As a former and future board member, I know that that's just not possible. To let the public know all the details would be irresponsible and would open us up to become even more unsafe. It would be counterproductive. What I do think is that right now, parents across the entire country are running on emotions and screaming out for armed guards at each school. I myself have said in the past, we have armed guards guarding our money, guarding our jewelry, even guarding some of our stores, but not our most precious gift, which are our children. And then I started to speak to security experts, and I realized that there are two sides to it, and there are positives and negatives. And just like any other topic in this world, you'll have people that are for or against. But we can't always make these educated decisions without being educated on how to make this decision. Lucky for us, we actually have an expert for the next few weeks who's still a sitting board member. I didn't realize he wasn't going to be here tonight, but Mr. Kiernan, as many of you know, is a retired police officer. He was also the head of safety for the William Floyd School District, and I'm not sure how many of you know this, but he holds a master's degree in Homeland Security. I would say that it makes sense to call him a true expert. I'm sure you'll all agree. Many years ago, we used our tax dollars to pay for a safety audit, which we're going to do again. That's pretty smart, and it brought us the vestibules and many other changes. But what I'd like to ask the board to do is to, I don't know if you have to take a vote or whatever, but have a presentation done by Mr. Kiernan for the public. I think everyone can agree he would be a very suitable person to create a presentation about the pros and cons of armed guards in schools. And I'm sure his free advice before moving on to a paid audit would be something all taxpayers could stand behind. On top of that, we have the ability to do that pretty quickly. Having a presentation by him would allow the public to see everything from each side, and they can feel good about any decision that the board would possibly be making about any type of safety for our children. I appreciate your time and look forward to seeing one of you maybe make a motion and hopefully have Mr. Kiernan be able to give us a presentation. Thank you.
Mrs. DiPietro?
It says push. Okay. I did write some stuff down, but I'm just going to say what's really on my mind to you guys. My biggest concern as a parent, and this is what I picture in my head as a parent, is my son exiting the bus. All the kids are exiting the bus in the morning. There's walkers coming in. There's a tremendous crowd outside. And someone walking onto the campus and just shooting. A lot of rounds can be shot very, very quickly. And when there is nobody there to defend our children and the staff from an active shooter, people die, just like what we saw. People are dead, children are dead, and they don't have to be dead. So as a parent, I picture that. I picture a shooter entering the school in the morning while the children are departing and shooting. And I see my son with no defense at all. He would have to run, shelter in place. I don't even know. All that I know is that I would like an armed guard or armed guards present at Sachem North High School in between my son, students and staff, and a lunatic. Mental health is a big problem, and it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I can ask my son and his friends, who in school makes you uncomfortable? And they can tell you A, B, and C very quickly. They know who makes them uncomfortable. There's children in this building that are mentally ill, and some of these children don't belong here. They belong somewhere else. They're on medications that actually enhance the ideologies not only to kill themselves, but to kill others. And it makes me very uncomfortable that they're in this school. And my son or anyone being nice to them doesn't make that person not want to kill my son or anyone else. I've been a nurse for 23 years. I know who to turn my back on and who I can't turn my back on, no matter how nice I am. So as a parent, that's what I see. I see the kids up at the field with security guards and radios. I see someone entering the field and shooting, and nobody there to help. I spoke to a retired NYPD yesterday. He said on a good day, the police would arrive in 3 to 5 minutes. I called the 4th precinct yesterday, and the response that I received from the 4th precinct was, we would respond as quickly as possible. So there will be a gap time where someone will be shooting and people will die. So I'm just calling for armed guards immediately. I appreciate all the layers of security, but we're missing one. We're missing the most effective line of security for staff and students.
That was your 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. All
Thank you,
right.
Mr. DiPietro.
You're welcome.
I apologize if I mispronounced this. Is it Mrs. Polanese?
First, I want to say thank you all for doing what you can to keep us safe. It's a shame what happened, but hopefully this is a little bit different because I'm not going to talk about that. What I am here to talk about is, I'm sorry, I have my notes here. What I am going to talk about is the right to a free and appropriate education, which my son was promised. He was promised for a fair chance at grade acceleration from kindergarten to 1st grade. His chance was anything but fair. He was asked to read a 3rd grade level book when he was being assessed for the 1st grade. The principal stated that he was just okay in math, but he was actually already doing place values multiplication, and then she quickly moved on when I objected. After several other inconsistencies, it was very clear to me, abundantly clear, that a fair chance was never intended for him. They said that he couldn't read well, that he couldn't write well. At the school that he's at now, I just quickly want to show you guys. He wrote a book complete with a table of contents, glossary, diagram, and on the last page, sorry, I'm like not a good public speaker right now. You have the meet the author. They had a spelling bee. I got an email that said, your son was one of the 3 finalists. He will represent our class in the school-wide spelling bee on Monday, January 10th. They said he couldn't read well. He was inducted into the headmaster's reading club. If you read the most books, you get a medal. This is his medal. This takes 6 months to complete. He completed it in 3. Science fair, presented using the scientific method. Robotics fair, he built, coded a robot and presented. Cinderella play, he earned the prince role. His report card, we'll skip to the end, all advanced. This is the kid that they denied and said that he was not ready for the 1st grade. Sorry. All advanced. Last line. Then we got a stack of hundreds. 90s was the lowest score that he ever received. So, sorry, I'm getting a call. So, by all measures, my son's current curriculum is by far more robust than any 1st or 2nd grade curriculum that Sachem has to offer. And even with differentiation, I know because I've done them both 1st and 2nd. Last month, I wrote a check for taxes and turned around and wrote the last check for my son's school. $14,000 later, my son finally got an appropriate education that this district should have provided him with. We teach our children to speak up. Dr. Pelletieri, when you saw Principal Kleinman bulldozing my son, you said nothing. That hurt me because we talked. At the BOE meeting, you stated that you hate to know that you failed a Sachem student, but you was failing one at that exact moment. I speak up for the families that can't do what I did, that can't afford to pay a private school for their funds, financially. My son is not special. He's no anomaly. There's several kids that can do more, but no one cares enough to make sure that they stay on that trajectory of their potential, even when brought to your attention. The flying by the seat of my pants approach, saying we've never done this before, is no excuse, especially when you're in the business of education. If you don't know, get to know. I'm not sure what it was about my son that made the admin so rashly deny him, but I just wanted to show you guys what they were denying and to show you what he was actually capable of. It's a shame because he started to hate school and now he loves it. Leaving him in that kindergarten class would have been the biggest mistake of his life. I wish the chance that you said you was going to give him, that they said that they were going to give him, was actually a chance, because it wasn't. This stuff I didn't even get to show you guys.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
On the top of page 38 is board discussion items, district-wide.
Do you mind if I say just one thing as a community member?
Of
quick?
course.
I'm sorry, I didn't sign in. Just quick, the one thing we forgot to bring up at the safety committee that I just wanted to mention again was the presentation by Homeland Security that we did in 2018 when Officer Lent came in and did it for all faculty, staff in our community. Now I think more than ever to schedule them for next year. It was one of the best presentations that I've ever sat through in my life. It taught us when you walk into a movie theater, a mall, a concert, shootings don't just happen in school. Look for the exits, look for what you're going to do, look to how you're going to protect yourself in the event something happens. And so Officer Lent goes to all schools and does this presentation, and he shows graphic videos, at least for the adult and faculty presentations. But what he basically showed, and he's a dad of 6 in a neighboring school district, was when you have a kid coming in with an AR-15 assault rifle, they're not coming through the front door where a guard with a gun is standing. They're coming in through a different access, and a guard with a gun is trained to leave the building to safely call. He is not going after an armed automatic rifle with a gun in his holster. The more likely scenario in that point is 2 kids are fighting, the guard goes to break it up and somebody gets the gun. That was Officer Lent, Homeland Security. One of the things that he said, I'm not talking either pro or con, I'm just saying when we have our threat vulnerability assessment and we have a trained professional that goes and does active shooter training for everybody, it was such a thing that to this day, if I'm in any place where there's a crowd, I always notice where's an exit, what can I hide behind? Because that's what he said. If somebody wants to get in somewhere and shoot up someplace, they're going to do it. I don't care what you have. Your goal is going to be to make it out alive. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. On the top of page 38 is board discussion items, district-wide school activities. I don't know who wanted to start.
I'll jump in to start, and then we can have others fill in. I actually spoke to Ms. Hines about this and Ms. Trombetta, the whole entire cabinet, actually around what seems to be differences in what some schools do around school-wide events or grade level events and what some of the other schools do. And I know it's a goal of several of our board members and all of us really to have similar experiences as we move across the grades and across the schools, so that all of our students graduating from Sachem would have similar experiences when they leave us. So of late, there was a concern, particular, I'll give you an example here at Samoset, something happened with the 7th grade. They weren't going to have a particular event. Others were concerned that, well, other schools have had 7th grade events, so now my child's not getting a similar event here. And there are a lot of things where this happens. One school might have a circus visit their 4th grade, another school doesn't. it's difficult to create kind of copycat images of every place. Linwood has a fantastic program called Destination Imagination. They are the only school that has that. So either we would force others to have that or not have them have that. I know we don't want to do either of those things. So one of my solutions is that we were going to create either a committee or sit down with our administrators and go school by school, grade by grade, and look at those experiences and come up with a system that allows us to have these baseline similar experiences that everyone would have across the district. For example, all fifth grade would have some form of moving up ceremony. So again, we wouldn't get into the weeds of that too much where it'd be, they all must have it at this certain place or at this certain time or this type of affair. But they would have some form of moving up ceremony. All eighth graders will have some type of experience in terms of a certain number of field trips. So what I'd like for us to do is do some legwork around this with our administrators, see what it is that we have in place already, see that we have consistency across the grades, make sure that we do that, and then come back and report out to the board and to the community those experiences that will be similarly based in all of our schools so that we don't have that differentiation in terms of experiences. Now, there will be some still, as I said before. There are some schools that do some specific things, just like Linwood, for example. I don't think that means that we should change Linwood or change the other schools to force them into doing something that Linwood did. But Linwood still should do all those other experiences that the other schools have, for example. And if another school said, hey, I like what Linwood did, we might want to add that. Then that should be a discussion we should have. We should permit that type of discussion to have. But I don't think it should be everyone has to do the same all the time for everything, because then I think it starts to stall some of what we try to do. I think it becomes then this idea that, well, don't go out and do that too much, that school over there, because then my school has to do it as well. So we're going to kind of slow things down, and we don't want to do that. We want people to be quasi-competing and trying to do some incredible things with their schools. And when there's new initiatives and new ideas, they should bring them forward, and we should share them. We should discuss again how we might be able to allow other folks to do them as well.
Sarah has a question. Then Mike.
Consider giving the students a voice and like voting on what trips they would want instead of it always being adult-led.
I believe we do that in some instances, Sarah, and that should be part of what we do, certainly, when we meet with our administrators. As part of that conversation should be students being at the fore of that. I know they do that oftentimes. Some of the things that they voted on in terms of where they wanted to have events or what type of events they want to have, I know we do that in some circumstances.
Mike?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'll get you next.
Yeah, Chris, just two things on mine. This is obviously very complex because you got a lot of moving parts, a lot of cogs. There's the children's interests, of course. There's the staff availability. There's also the PTAs who want to run events that, you know, they challenge themselves, right? They challenge other PTAs. So there's a lot of moving parts here. But one thing I would say is that in terms of things that they do, let's just make sure that if one building's allowed to do something, that they're all allowed to do it, that we don't have a situation where, oh, I was told like we can't do that. I know they did it at Hiawatha, but Waverly's not allowed to do it. If it's good enough for one building, it should be available as an option to all buildings or all similarly situated grades, obviously. So that would be one thing I would say that should be reflected in whatever you're going to present to us.
Stephanie?
Just having the PTA on, if you do make a committee, have a representative from every building, have input, and definitely children involvement as well, but also parents, if that could be added in. I don't know if that needs to be at every single building, but the PTA should be represented so that we could keep our uniqueness. But I totally value having the school district have their own set of what every kid should have. I think that's great.
Sabrina, then Mike.
So I'm just going to reiterate and then add in one piece. I agree. I feel that there has to be a baseline. We've spoke about this, that there, sixth grade, fifth grade, there should be some type of similar experience between the buildings. I know right now some of the buildings, they do allow the children to vote on what their end of the year fifth grade trip's going to be. And sometimes you get parents will see what happened at North versus what happened at East. But a lot of times the kids at North voted for that. Or the kids at East, the student, I don't know what it's called. They chose that. So if one buildings doing this and that. A lot of times it does come from the students. I also have to say with the PTA, like Stephanie said, cultural arts is a big piece that gets programs into elementary, middle, into the schools. And I think that's a piece that all the PTAs could look at. And I almost like, I hate to say it's like a competition, but I'll see something that happened at Merrimack, or someone will see something that happened like, oh, that was a great program. Let's bring it to this school or that school. But I think that we just have to make sure that we give a consistent baseline, but allow the buildings to have their own community feel. I mean, I know there's things that, being a parent on the PTA at Tamarack, there were things that other buildings were doing that we didn't necessarily want, or we did at our building, but it wasn't successful. So we don't want to continue to do something that might cause us to lose money that could go to other events and activities for our students. So like Mike said, there's a lot of moving pieces to this, that if we do try to make every single school do exactly the same thing and go on every same trip and activity, we're definitely going to see a loss in activities and experience for our students instead of a gain of activities. And, and again, it's also teachers, I know in PTA, some of the PTAs let the teachers pick. Here are the activities. What would the first grade like to do? What would the second grade like to do? And they go in and they look at, well, okay, based on our curriculum, based on our students' interests this year, let's do this program. So there's a lot of input that comes in that I think a lot of people in the community don't know how those programs come into the schools. And some of it is school teacher planned, and some of it is PTA cultural arts planning too. So again, there's a lot of moving pieces that go into it. But I think also the PTA is a great resource. The council is a great resource to try to get, the different schools to reach out to each other. If they had an activity and were interested in doing it, I know that one PTA would be more than willing to help and get a program into it. And same thing with teachers, administrators. I think that conversation piece has to happen a lot more. The communication between the buildings have to happen. I know communication's a big topic this year, but I think if the buildings are communicating a little bit more, the administrators, the teachers, the PTs, that then we could kind of maybe get closer to on the same page versus having to be exactly the same with all our activities.
Mike?
Yeah, because another thing that came to mind based on some of the emails we saw is, and I'm not sure how this would manifest itself, but on the homepage of every school's homepage, it would be nice if there was a link pop-up that popped up 6th grade trip this date, 7th grade trip this date, 8th grade trip this date, and in the elementary schools, not to go into great detail of those things, but just a heads up so parents know this is coming. Maybe they need to start asking their kid about, do you want to go? Is this something they need to attend? Do I need to get a permission slip? But just on every homepage, upcoming activities, whatever we want to call it, student activities or events, and just click the link. It pops up, gives you the date, the name of the event, the grade, and that's it. And then at least it gives the parents a heads up as well to get engaged. I don't know how everybody else feels. I just thought that based on some of our emails, that was something that was lacking.
Yeah, I think many parents felt they didn't have access to information. That was a concern for them, especially at the middle school and high school level, but particularly in the middle school where kids are transitioning to now being the owners of information as opposed to coming home and saying, here's my backpack and there's a tuna sandwich in there and a flyer for the trip. So a lot of people get me talk about our website and say we should put this on the homepage and this on the homepage and this on the homepage and this on the homepage. And that's a concern there, Mike, just in terms of all the information we put on the homepage and then we start to clutter the homepage or with pop-ups and things like that. It's difficult because I'll tell you that information is housed in Google Classrooms in all the classrooms. I don't know, is there a 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade one overall, or the teachers have it?
There's individual Google Classrooms, and then any major field trips are also on our district calendar as well.
So that's certainly something then that there's the calendar. We could talk with.
And remind. Thank you, Ms.
Yeah,
Keefe.
they send out reminds and things like that, but parents have to sign up for that.
Right.
But I think we should start to utilize things like the website and other areas for try to communicate this a little more. And there are ways parents can go into the Google Classroom themselves. They don't have to go in through the child's piece, right? They can sign up.
Yep, I think that's why we had talked about possibly, maybe not this year, but in the future, moving to, Google Calendar so that we can have one by school, by Google Class, so that it goes right to your phone. And then you're not guessing. You can see what a teacher or a building's every day activities are. And it's a little bit easier when you use something like an iCal or a Google Calendar. So I know we were talking about that as well.
Okay, let's continue that conversation, definitely.
Rob?
Just to piggyback on some of the things that we said, I know that, schools do vote on, opportunities for kids, and they let the kids decide. And look, when my own children were 8th graders, I know my wife was looking forward to a formal, and the kids voted that year, and they had a picnic, a fun day, and they had a great time, but there were still parents that were upset that it wasn't a formal. I think sometimes as parents, we need to step back and we need to let the kids, okay, pick and choose what they want to do. I mean, we encourage them to do that. They're going to have to do that their whole lives. But I think there were some things that were lost over the last few weeks as a result of communication. Finding out last minute. My own kids did it to me. I got a phone call at work about a Top Golf or one of those trips, whatever that is, golfing.
Did that. That was their choice.
And then I found myself that morning, okay, logging on to pay schools to pay for it. And the communication has to be much further out. Here I am, a school board member. I had no idea my kids had a field trip to Top Golf.
Can I jump in on that?
So the thing is that, I live by the philosophy that if it isn't broken, don't fix it. We had calendars years ago that were laid out for the whole month, and you knew exactly what was on what date. I'm going to remind you that when we do the reports, okay, for our own student report cards, okay, here's a disturbing fact for you. About 75% of our own parents don't look at report cards. What makes you think that they're going to go and look at Google, okay, to see when the class trips are? They're not, and I think there was an email from a parent from Samus that was very upset that a trip was canceled because of a lack of interest. And I don't know how much of a lack of interest it really was. It might have just been a lack of communication that happened. And I think we have to do a better job. We have to, I know that we're in a, technological era where everything's done on computer, but sometimes there's a lot of people that are not thinking that way. A lot of, especially older parents and things like that, are not maybe in tune with, with computers and Google Classroom. I'm not in any of my children's Google Classrooms. They don't give me the code. I don't know why, but they seem to do well. They seem to do well, and I don't have to feel like I have to monitor everything they do. But I think we need to go back to putting calendars out, and so parents that are not going to log in every minute of the day on Google Classroom can see what's going on, and maybe have a whole month snapshot of the events for the kids.
Let me just clarify. Are you proposing printing them and sending them out, or we would put them? We could put them on the
digitize them,
website.
email them, send them home with the kids. I mean, a parent is likely to say, "Hey, you know what? It's October 2nd. Did you guys get your monthly calendar?" And listen, I remember as a kid, those calendars went inside the cupboard drawer, door, and you hung them up. I think I have friends list. My kid's 22 years old. I think I have his class friends list from when he's in 3rd grade. It's still hanging up in there. But the thing is, like I said, if we have to print them or send them home digitally so parents can print them, I think getting the information to parents sooner is going to be beneficial. And I think a lot of opportunities wouldn't be lost. I think we could still, we could still put stuff on Google Classroom. I maybe tap into both of those, but there's a lot of people that are not looking at Google Classroom. They're not. So,
Stephanie, please.
Google would go into your phone. It's amazing. You could also print it as a month calendar, but that's not what I was bringing up. We also have to remember we had a weird time frame of COVID, and independent skills that our kids would have had, bringing stuff home and information, they lost critical time to learn how to do that. And that's why a lot of our parents are going onto Facebook and screaming to each other, "Help! I didn't know Topgolf was also at Seneca." We had the same things going at Seneca. People were, "How do I pay for a trip?" And you were supposed to pay for it 3 days ago. So, I think if we remember that the kids didn't get the skills they needed to be able to bring this stuff home either.
And the kids.
Right. Well, that too. But if I could just add to Google Calendar, like you had said, and that's why I am piggybacking. It is something that just automatically goes on your phone. So just like I have here on my calendar, I could see the whole month. It syncs, it sends alerts. You can even add actually field trip notices on there. You can put links. We're a little bit of ways away from it, but we have been talking about just how easy it is, because we do recognize there's a lot of information and or misinformation. And another thing, Dr. Pilitari, I know you had mentioned a little bit earlier,
bringing back our student roundtables from a few years back really allowed us a lot of voice and choice in terms of what the students, were looking at, in particular at the elementary school. At the high school, they go through honor society, their grade level leaders, all of those things. But, a lot coming back now that we are sort of almost out of COVID.
Anyone else? Please, Sabrina.
I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but I think but I'm going to do it. The issue is just that one push out to parents. I mean, middle school kids are 11, 12. I mean, even with a concert, I mean, I have to go buy my kid black pants and a shirt. If I'm getting that notice the day before, I know many parents were texting me, there's a concert tonight. Like, yes. And again, there was a form that was given to our kid, but it's crumpled in the bottom of their backpack. I mean, there's still kids who are learning skills and growing that I think just that one push out, I put that in the email that, hey, check your child's social studies Google Classroom. There's a form for you to fill out. And that's it. And then every parent will say, hey, so-and-so, let me, go into your, I love filling out the form and going to pay. It's the easiest thing in the world. So I'm not necessarily pro, starting to make hundreds of copies of permission slips. But I think as long as parents know that it's there, just a little quick reminder, because our kids are busy. They're in sports, they're doing clubs, they're in drama. They might say, oh, I forgot that you have to fill out that form that's in my Google Classroom. So I think, again, just that one somehow push out to parents saying, even if it's once a week, hey, these are the things that are going on. Make sure you're filling these out. That just constant communication. Because I know we could also go online and look at a calendar. But I think when it comes to my email or I get that text message, I'm more willing at that point to go click instead of, oh, let me go find. And that's the issue. I don't feel like the parents or the students should constantly have to go looking for something, that it should be pushed out and then easily be able to be found after that. And I think, I see instances where that's happening and other times where I see kids losing out on opportunities of dances and activities because they forgot to have a parent fill something out or send money in. And I know the schools have been great with those kids who have forgotten. I do have to say that, but I just think that, that proactive piece that we can maybe do to get these kids into those experiences and not missing out on things that they want to be a part of.
Can I ask Erin something?
Sure you can.
Erin, is there a way to make a Google Classroom parent form class?
Say that again. I'm
So
sorry.
as a Google class, instead of it fishing into all the different classrooms, have a form class, like parent forms, so that when you log into your kid's classroom,
yeah, you mean-
it's by its own classroom
With just all the forms and
with
everything.
all the forms,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then they don't have to go like I know some classes.
We can
trips-
pretty much make anything we want, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking at Mr. Renda back there. We pretty much can. I think what we don't want to do is make it so voluminous, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
Is that we have so many, and as we should, right? Our individual teachers, they have their own Google Classrooms, and then we have grade level ones, and then we have new teacher ones, and then we have new parent
I
ones.
fished in the school one that says
Mhm.
Seneca for my son, 21, 22.
Mhm.
There's forms there,
Mhm.
but then like social studies, they'll send out a trip form, and then another
Mhm.
teacher's in charge of another trip.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't even know to look in English for a form.
So you know what, if you don't mind, we are meeting with our middle school principals on Friday. We did have a discussion with them that we need to just look at not just our general activities that Ms. Trombetta and I worked on with the middle school principals, just to make sure everybody had similar experiences. But it sounds like communication in terms of working with the staff to make it a little bit less voluminous again. The wonderful thing about Google is that everything's online, but that's also a hardship. I know myself, I'm pretty proficient at Google and I have about 1 million things on my phone. And I have calendars on my fridge. I have them on my phone, on my, so it is a lot. So I think that we can definitely put our best foot forward and just streaming it down a little bit. And maybe more district Google classrooms that can go out to parents by grade level and or by building with everything that needs to be had. And if we're open to Google Calendar, trying that out, maybe in one building as a pilot to see if it works, or just at the district level to see if it works.
Anyone else? Does anybody have any future board discussion items? Please, Mike.
If we could, I know we had talked about revamping the board committee application form at one point. I think we should just jump out in front of that. So if we could discuss that the next meeting, and this way we start fresh on July, after we start a new year.
Make sure that's on there for next time, please.
Yes. Allison, you're writing that down, right? I am as well.
Matthew, no cursing.
I don't know. Have you guys already talked about the clubs for next year? Or you did?
We did send out our budget, our proposed budget after, approval. So the schools did their club fair so far, looked at anything of interest. We will start to bring forth all of those clubs in addition to the ones that we added from our additional pandemic monies. And then once we regroup again in September, they'll run another either fair or just interest from our students to see if we need to add anything else on.
So what would be the process if I'd like to see a club that is dedicated to the local veterans in this area? I run a club for Three Village called the Patriot League, and they do a lot of great things, and it really it promotes honoring and respecting our local veterans. We're currently doing a project at Ward Melville. We have a wall of honor, and it's honoring all the alumni of the high school, plus staff, even board members, just anyone that's affiliated with the district that has served our country. And I just, it's a nice thing, and I'd like to see something like that for Sachem.
Yeah, we have a few different clubs. Leo's comes to mind as one over at North. A lot of our interest comes from the students and or the advisors who bring it up. But we certainly have shared ideas, like our robotics club that we brought down, our coding clubs that we brought down into the middle schools, so we can share and see if there's anything. But I can also gather for you clubs that are similar to what you are talking about, Mr. Brown, because I do know that we have clubs that may not be exactly like what you're talking about, but we do a lot of similar activities. But I can certainly bring that up too in terms of interest.
Anyone else? The next regular meeting of the Board of Education will be held on Wednesday, June 15th, 2022 at 7 p.m. right here in the Samoset Annex Boardroom. Can I please have a motion and a second to enter into executive session to discuss the employment of a particular personnel and to discuss the appeal of a student matter? Motion by Mr. Scavo, seconded by Mr. Isernia. All in favor? Thank you.